Spiritus tenebrarum. Veniteum fascinum of spiritus tenebrarum. Magna austerate jubeo. Impliteum glabidem, impliteum viribus, sulfuratis vestris. Consueteum iris vestris, istas vires atumem jubiante. Fascinum, O spiritus tenebrarum, magna austerate jubeo. Cantus Teum iris vestris, istas vires atumem jubiate.
is Dwelling of Duels. Duels. I'm your host, Evil Sonic, and tonight we are going to listen to 50 songs that write 50 songs that are covers from games that are fresh. What is fresh? Is it a state of mind? A proprietary blend of spices? Some sort of body spray? No! Fresh, at least in the Dwelling of Duels Legendarium vernacular, is a song from a game, or games, no, it's a game, that is not on the DoD website. Most of the time, that means it's a song that was never covered here in the Dwelling of Duels contest. But now, the song has been submitted, the game has been covered, the track is fresh. So tonight, we've got 38 mains for brains and 12 alts for your waltz, so keep it right here because this is Dwelling of Duels. Duels.
unfold. The lanterns alight bring color to the world, bringing peace as the gray turns to gold. Do you see the seasons change, and how the land comes to life, how the spirits and imps love to run? Do you remember the ghosts and the past that haunts this grove, this place that they once called home? Hear the seabirds and the waves as they crash upon the shore. Hear your neighbors come greet you at dawn. Walk along through the ruins, remains of their repose, yet the ghosts speak and still linger on. Do you remember our flame guide, the warmth of his light, fighting restless souls still lost in the dark? Will you embrace these lost souls, give them peace to pass on? Will your joy to help others spark? These landscapes shifting on, nature thrives in this grove. Trees, stars, water flows, essence giving this glow. In the old haunted grove, we see this path we chose to march on. Bears, spirits, friends, go to the great beyond. Let the spirits of the forest go unto their rest. Tell the stories for future scouts bold. As the flame burns aloud and color warms the world, then memories we shall hold. Bid farewell to the ghost bears of gold.
I'm waking up to ash and dust. I wipe my brow and I sweat my rust. I'm breathing in the chemicals. I'm breaking in, shaping up, then checking out on the prison bus. This is it, the apocalypse. Whoa, I'm waking up. I feel it in my bones, enough to make my system blow. Welcome to the new age, to the new age. Welcome to the new age, to the new age. Whoa, whoa, I'm radioactive, radioactive. Whoa, whoa, I'm radioactive, radioactive. I raise my flag, dye my clothes. It's a revolution, I suppose. We're painted red to fit right in. Whoa. I'm breaking in, shaping up, then checking out on the prison bus. This is it, the apocalypse. Whoa, I'm waking up. I feel it in my bones, enough to make my system blow. Welcome to the new age, to the new age. Welcome to the new age, to the new age. Whoa, whoa, I'm radioactive, radioactive. Whoa, whoa, I'm radioactive, radioactive. All systems go. The sun hasn't died. Deep in my bones, straight from inside, I'm waking up. I feel it in my bones, enough to make my system blow. Welcome to the new age, to the new age. Welcome to the new age, to the new age. Whoa, whoa, I'm radioactive, radioactive. Whoa, whoa, I'm radioactive, radioactive.
You just heard Digimon Rumble Arena PS1 Burning Volcano, Cult of the Lamb's Nuclear Baptism, Croc, Legend of the Gobos, Yazoo, Cozy Grove, Ghost Bears of Gold, Brothers, A Tale of Two Sons, Paseo de los Hermanos, Battletoads from Game Boy, Ended Friendship with Toads, Apes Are My New Best Friends, Assault City Torment Nexus, and Arzette, the Jewel of Faramore, Arzette's Arabesque in Arid on You. What is Dwelling of Duels? It's a monthly video game music remix competition. We say competition because there's votes and someone comes in first, but bless your hearts, I like to think of DoD as a workshop. You've got like a month or so to work on your track. That's not enough time to do everything, but it's enough time to get it out there. Then these dwellers, these duelers, these friends, these fiends, they provide their thoughts and notes and reviews and feedbacks. And your song, it's not etched in stone. So here's what you do. The first thing, see, is never get hung up on placement. It's a matter of circumstance. The second thing you do, and here's what you do, you give yourself a minute to sit with those notes, those critiques, because reading criticism in the moment is never gonna land, no matter how accurate it is. Give it a second, give it some distance, come back to it, re-listen, you'll notice, oh, my bass tone is atrocious, or my rhythm guitar does need work, or I don't know what compression is. Whatever it is. And then, that's when the magic happens. You make those tweaks, you use the feedback to improve your song, and... Nah, I'm just kidding, you're probably 3 days into next month's theme by that point. But you might remember some of those notes, and maybe you'll, work on that, make those adjustments to your process. And then here's what you're gonna do next. You're gonna keep it right here. Because this is Dwelling of Duels.
appeared. Well, no one told me about her, and then she got up and left. But it's too late to learn about her. How would I know? Why do I care? Please don't bother trying to find her. She's not there. Oh, and then I went out and looked. What could I do? And then I had to go find her. I had to know. Well, it's hard to search the forest. How can I find her? Why do I care? I had to keep trying to find her. She's not there. But let me tell you about the way she looked, the way she acted, the color of her hair. Her voice is soft and cool. Her eyes are clear and bright. Teardrop. I found her and we then got married. How would I know that it can't last? One day I could not find her. She's not there. Well, let me tell you about the way she looked, the way she acted, the color of her hair. Her voice is soft and cool. Her eyes are clear and bright. Teardrop. I waged a war and then went home. How would I know that she'd be there? But she did not even know me. She's right there. Well, let me tell you about the way she looked, the way she acted, the color of her hair. Her voice is soft and cool. Her eyes are clear and bright. Teardrop.
This is, excuse me, a damn fine cup of coffee.
right. Before that, before I do the thing, the Fire Emblem Heroes track in the listening party, the two tracks, they were played in the wrong order. It's based on how they show up on the website. So if you are voting along to this listening party live, if you are voting along to the VOD, the Victor Oscar Delta, please double check those votes. And before that brief, embarrassing PSA, you just heard Intelligent Cube, True Genius. I was a teenage Let me try it again. I was a teenage exocolonist, the first sip of coffee as a grown-up. Hugh, RNBW. Fire Emblem, Genealogy of the Holy War, Deirdre... No, that's the fucking thing I messed up. Fire Emblem Heroes, Heroes of the Tempest. And then Fire Emblem, Genealogy of the Holy War, Deirdre's Not There. E-double-G, Elemental Gimmick Gear, Pub, and Donkey Kong Bonanza. Oh no, minecarts? Oh boy. This listening party, gotta tell y'all, it's bangin' time. Who here is ready for bangin'? Oh, what? No. That's not what I'm talking. Get your minds out of the gutter, you little perverts. This is the part of the stream where I go through the Twitch bangs. And so help me, we seem to be getting more of them, and I love it. Where do we start? Okay. Let's start with the reminder. This one is important and contemporaneous. Anon. The submissions are anonymous. So please do not submit tracks you've already released or shared elsewhere, and certainly not something that you shared with the original composer and then got shared again to 30,000 views. I'm not mentioning that for any reason whatsoever, but just an example of a thing you want to avoid. This rule is here for so very many reasons. So many reasons that I'm just going to skip that and jump ahead to reviews. Write reviews, please. We love it. It helps us all out so much. And writing reviews is a thing that you can develop. It's a talent, it's a skill. Just like you gotta play hot cross buns before you start shredding Cliffs of Dover, you've gotta write, I like this song, but I don't know why, before you write, try a 2 decibel cut on the left pan rhythm guitar around the 3K frequency, thanks. And when you write reviews, it really helps boost your votes. We love those votes. If you write those reviews, your votes get a little bump. It's super cool. I love doing the little script on the fancy computer thing I don't understand. I just click a button. If you write a review, I click a button. And the numbers change, and it's great. So get those votes in, please. You have until, I want to say 9 p.m. Eastern, aka, 48 hours from now. It's Sunday night. You've got 47 hours and 53 minutes to get those votes in. And in addition to providing your votes, maybe you want to talk about what your favorite tracks were in the Discord. This is the room where it happens, as the fella says. All month, every month. We're talking DoD. We're talking production tips. We're talking upcoming conventions and shows. We're talking animal pictures. So you got a photo of your snake or your dog or a kangaroo talking to you, Sulfur? We want to see it. And we want to see it in the Discord. So much happens here. It's a fucking community. One of the cool things about this community is that if you support it, you get some of that cursed knowledge. Y'all know what I'm gonna say. It's the thing about becoming a patron. It's $3 a month, folks. And with those $3, we're able to pay artists for the sick banner art you see each month. I love this. I waited until the stream was scrolled so you can't see the banner art, and for some reason it's going to take a little bit, so you're just looking at brick right now. But really fucking cool banner art. The Fresh Month banner art from Travis, the Rocket Knight Bullock. We can pay artists to do that stuff, and that's great, and that's a good thing, and it's the way it should be. And if you love this art and other arts, you should go check out the store. We got a threadless store. Shirts, mugs, skateboards. The essentials. Sick banner art. So far, we have a few classics up there from Travis and the indisputable Nate Horsfall. Those are available as prints. Top of head, I know you can get the Fresh Month. I know you can get Travis's October 2023 Horror Month. That is so dope. You've got some really great Nate banners. Off the top of my head, I know there's Unplugged in there. I'm kicking myself. I can't. There's the Nintendo vs. Sega Month. There's some really good banner arts that are available as prints, and obviously we've got the DoD guy. We've got the 20th anniversary logo. And don't you know it? So here's the thing. When you buy banner art from the Threadless store, those proceeds go to the artist, because what were we just talking about? You pay the artist the way it should be. And because that's a thing you do when you're good, when you're decent, when you rock. And because this place rocks, and you know who else knows that? That's Impact Soundworks. They know we rock, and they rock too. These lovely people, they've been a sponsor of DoD for years. They very graciously grant one of their awesome libraries or VST instruments to the first place artist each month. Check out their store. Not just those classic awesome super audio carts and those Norg and Pud basses, those Sixto guitars, all the other classic things that they've got on there. They've got a bunch of free stuff too, and it's really solid. So check it out. It is, if they sucked, I wouldn't talk about it with this enthusiasm. I can't fake that stuff. I will quit before I fake that energy. Impact Soundworks is amazing. So shut up and go there. But before you do that, I want you to check that out. I want you to keep it right here, because this is Dwelling of Duels. Duels, duels, duels. All right. You just heard Nintendog's Brain Age Tetris DS, your brain age in dog years. Nintendo e-reader, Swipe a Smile. Netherworld, Diamonds of Dom. Look Outside, Deathly Cursed Uber Ride of Painful Hyper Doom. Legend of Legaia. Pillars of Light. Legacy of Kain, Soul Reaver, Nosgoth 1984. Literally. And Kirby's Squeak Squad, This Is Not Home Resonance. Alright folks, I'm gonna be a little bit of a bummer for a minute or two. This is a no-name situation that came up. I wanted to take a bit of time to talk about this as a PSA, and this is regarding collaboration courtesy. We are musicians. We're complicated folks. Sometimes we pick up the instrument and it doesn't sing. Sometimes we can't even get to picking it up. But in DoD, where we have so many incredible collaborations, I think it's important to implement or try to implement a few practices. It's what helps make for good music and good friends. First thing, if you are leading a project, give yourself a true and honest assessment of what your timeline is. Let your collaborators know what that timeline is. We've all had that crazy week leading up to deadline, so even if deadline is, Thursday the 25th, you've got that week and your true deadline is 10 days earlier. If you're going to need time to mix, start by setting those expectations early. When people think they have more time, they usually try to use that time to practice the part to perfection or deal with whatever else is going on in their lives. So let them know what you need and when you'll need it by. Second thing, if you are unable to use one of your collaborators' parts, whether it's because of those time constraints of getting the mix together, or if it wasn't exactly what you were looking for, or for whatever reason, talk to them about it early. Telling them last minute, by the way, I didn't use your part, is not a great way to go. That's a pretty solid way to get a reputation for not being the best collaborator. Communication is key. I'm not saying this to come across only as, lack of communication is bad, but really it's open and honest communication is legion. It's one of the best parts of collaborating. Knowing what your collaborator is looking for and working with them to help achieve it, it's gold. I love it. You love it. We all love it. So get out there and talk to your friends. Make that music. Scoop those mids. Keep it right here. Because this is Dwelling of Duels, you guys. That's what it is. Duels, duels, duels.
world that loses its power will fade away into nothingness. If such is the fate of this world, then I shall return it to its mother's womb. The world must first die for it to be born again. That is the only way to salvation.
All right. You just heard Street Fighter X plus Alpha Sakura Ganbarimasu. Solomon's Key. I came home from work and had dinner, which is a beer and some music making, and then thought, fuck it, we ball and submitted this even though it needs more work. Okay, gonna go eat dinner now. Bye. Skullgirls. Melee in the Moon. Shin Megami Tensei 3 Nocturne. The Concept of Rage, featuring Dante from the Devil May Cry series. Shantae and the Seven Sirens. What shall we do with a sunken shipyard? Rayman Origins for a few lumens more. Pseudo Regalia, an evening performance, and Owlboy, Heart More. What have we got? What do we got? What do we got? Oh! You know how we do this little listening party stream for the contest each month? Well, we've got some other streams too, friends. Just this past month, we had a banner artist breakdown stream with Travis, the Rocket Knight Bolick, on his Freshman Month banner. Last week, we had the Bi-Score album release for Out in Front, and they had a little special bonus of their Touhou farming OST. This upcoming, hold on, let me tease out. Yeah. This upcoming month, I'm gonna tell you. We got another banner artist breakdown. Haven't scheduled it yet. Haven't talked with them yet, but I know there's some interest, so I'm just gonna dive in and commit. Marawes. It's gonna happen. There's also gonna be an album release stream with Ronin Op F, aka Mana, aka Punk VG Mixer Bitch, aka my good friend Jay. No dates on those streams just yet, my friends, but they're gonna be here in exactly soonish. In the meantime, go check out some of the other streams we've had. Back in August, we had a banner artist breakdown with not just Aka Link for the Wii U week, but also Lauren the Flute for the Koji Kondo month. We had a July stream with Matt, aka Matt Matat. He showed some tips and tricks and this and that using that free source Synth VST Vital. For that week, JMR came on. He showed us how to rip OSTs from different consoles. God, I love that guy. He's so tall. I really can't stress that enough. He's really very tall. If you meet him in person, tell him that Evil Sonic said he's tall. But first, you're probably going to say, wow, you really are tall, because you're just going to forget yourself in the moment. We got to get some more production streams on here. Connor. Hey, Connor, are you still here? Connor, can I trick you into doing another stream with me sometime? If you don't say anything, I'm going to take that as a yes. Connor, by virtue of not responding, just agreed to do a production stream. We'll do a mix breakdown. Maybe we'll do a mix breakdown of the Jock Jams and Earl track we did last year, or maybe he'll do like a sound effects breakdown on the DoD Public Radio track we did 2 years ago. Either way, by virtue of Connor not replying in the chat here right now, he is legally bound to do however many Twitch streams I choose to ask him to do. Connor, you lovely fellow. Was that serious? That DoD Public Radio track was actually 2 years ago? That seems... That's really 2 years? Ah. The inexorable passing of time. Anyway, we're coming up on our last block, but y'all better stay for the alts, because this is Dwelling of Excuse me. This is Dwelling of Duels. Thank you.
Come follow me. I'll show you this side of the world, the places that you've never seen. Come follow me. Come follow me. I'll show you the side of yourself, the person that you've always been, but never dreamed. What could you be
closing in on you so that you panic again. The ceiling seems to be 1,000 swords of Damocles over your head, over your head, over your head, over your head, over your head. When the walls are closing in on you so that you panic again, the ceiling seems to be 1,000 swords of Damocles over your head. You can't stop them, you can't stop them, you can't stop them, you can't stop them.
Tetris.
The strength of will inside you is always there to guide you. I know that there are times when a friend can lighten up the load. So when those troubles find you, you'll find me right beside you. I'm someone
Oh. All right. You just heard Xenoblade Chronicles 3 Starlight Kickin'. Unravel. Let me unravel so I can be renewed. Ultimate Spider-Man from Game Boy Advance. Godspeed, Spider-Man. Trampoline Terror. Mom, Jack double bounced me and I bit my tongue and it's bleeding and won't stop laughing. And he said, you look like a dog that bit a bee, but in a human form, and the bee was a tongue and you bleed like a dickhead. Totally rad, because I'm totally rad. Tetris Plus, Get Unblocked, Tetris Effect, Always Been But Never Dreamed, and Super Mario 3D Land, Horn Dog Ho Down. All right. We got some alts coming up. But before that, I want to remind you, don't you dare forget your deadlines. This stream is going to hit the YouTubes pretty soon. If you missed any of it, you should go check it out there. Obviously, you'll want to check out the DoD website, where you can cast your votes. You should check out the Mega Mixtape website, where you can go write reviews. Let's bang that one over there. Yeah, go check out the Mega Mixtape. You have until 9 p.m. Eastern on Sunday, September the 28th, to cast your votes for this month, so get them in. But before that, scoop the mids, get 5 guitars right here, slide right, and keep it right here, because it's time to stay for the alts!
J.G. Wentworth, J.G. Wentworth. I have a structured settlement and I need cash now. Call J.G. Wentworth, 877, cash now. 877, cash now. I have an annuity, but I need cash now. Call J.G. Wentworth, 877, cash now. Call 877. Cash now. Call 877. Cash now. J.G. Wentworth, J.G. Wentworth.
that's all we got for you. It's a great month, everybody. Heard some good songs. We had some laughs. We had some tears. We had a good time was had by all. So you got your 46 hours to get your votes in. Maybe a little less, more like 45 hours and 49 minutes if you keep track of time like that. Anywho, you got until 9 p.m. post-meridian Eastern Standard Time or Daylight Time. Whatever time it is right now. It's the Eastern Time. You got until then to get your votes in. You got the rest of your lives to get reviews in, but only that voting period to get your reviews in if you want your votes to count for more. So, there's that. Anywho, thanks all for coming. We got some cursed knowledge here in the supporters only channel if you're a Patreon or Twitch subscriber. And if you wanna take a gander at next month's banner art, it's a good place to do it. So y'all come back now. You hear? I don't know what the fuck I'm doing. Jesus Christ, it's so late. It's after 11. You guys, it's my bedtime. It can't be expected. This has been a delight. You certainly brought the fresh. You fresh-faced lovelies. Dwelling of Dystopia be like, stay for the ads. I'm gonna tell you to get some preparation H. To, Jackie, what's the name of that gutter? She's not here. She can't hear me, but there's a local I gotta do boss. So there's like a local TV ad here. I don't know how to do I'm too Midwestern now. I forgot how to do Boston. Paktika Havijad. So there's this guy who he sells gutters, and he's got his family on the TV with him, and he's always like, he's got his dad there. His dad's ancient, see, and the dad says, One Piece, because the gutter's One Piece, see. And the guy's just like, right, Dad. He just does not give a shit about his father. So, anywho, there's still 39 of you here listening to me go on. There's nothing left for you. It is just me. There's still 39 people here. Oh my god. What's the number? Oh, 38, okay. We lost someone. Some poor schmuck decided to call it. Yeah, I got nothing else. Dwelling of Duels, fresh month. Great month, great tracks. Get your votes in, get your reviews in. This is the great thing about DoD and calendars. There's always another month coming up. It's a great thing. There's more. So, keep it right here. Stay for the alt. Scoop the mids. Got 5 guitars. 3, 4, 5, 1, 8. Good night, everybody. This has been Dwelling of Duels. And stop streaming. Ugh. These fucking people. Oh shit, I'm still on.